All right. Okay. So we're here for the March Finance Committee meeting. We'll start off, as always, with the February financial statements. I'll give you an update on where we're at with utility shutoffs and our ARPA funds that we allocated to the Utility Assistant Program through CAP. I do have 2 items coming up on the April 11th council agenda. So I wanted to get those on this list because we won't have another meeting prior to that. So that'll be going over budget amendment number 4, which is our first quarterly budget amendment of 2022. And then the LTAC resolution is kind of a joint effort that we've been working on probably since December-ish to get that cleaned up, bringing it to council with our suggested changes on how to make that process better, more efficient, and just cleaner from year to year. And then we have Scott with the city administrator update, and then John with the mayor's update. And Scott does have to leave a little early, so he asked to be bumped up. So I'm having him speak to something in the financial statements, so I'll let him do his report as part of that.
Why don't you, just because I wasn't sure you were going to do this, Angie, if you have the, perfect, throw up the permitting.
Yes.
Numbers.
And if I can say, if I can say, as we get started, I'm gonna pop out of here at about 20 till I have my citizen meeting. So okay. I'm done by then.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we'll try to get everybody out on time. So the February statements look good, trending above target in most areas on revenues, below target on expenses. Did note one area of concern down at the bottom with the building permits being down again this month. So I did ask Scott, as the overseer of that department, to kind of fill us in. This is the 2nd consecutive month we've seen a drop. So I asked him to look into that and kind of give us some background information on what's going on with the building permits.
Yeah, we had that conversation this morning. And so I reached back out to Nettie just to kind of actually get not just my overall sort of macro picture, but some little micro issues. And I'll address those both here. So, what they're hearing, what she's hearing from developers it's some of the things are probably not surprising to anyone, but some might be. Cost of materials just so high, not making it quite worth it. Lack of supplies in the supply chain, also making it difficult to do things. Developers have noticed that homes are not selling in one day like they were before. They're concerned they've sort of hit a maximum price cap for what they can charge in Ocean Shores, and they're sitting on the market a little longer. And that's making them nervous on new developments, especially because everyone's anticipating that interest rates are going to rise. And interest rates going to rise is also going to obviously drive demand for home construction down. One other thing of note is, and this is just an Ocean Shores note, AJ Precision, the Dunkas, who are one of our big developers here, they're moving in the summer. So they're going to be moving out of the area. And so they're just getting like sort of the rest of their inventory done and are not going to be developing in Ocean Shores any longer. And they do, somewhere I didn't get Nettie doesn't have the exact numbers, but it's a good 20% or so of the homes that are built in Ocean Shores are by AJ Precision. And so with them leaving, that's going to obviously drive some of the building we've seen done down. But that doesn't mean that everything is down within permitting, just sort of the home aspect. So she said that our driveway permits, our utilities, water and sewer, and lot clearing are still moving right along. That those numbers haven't really dropped at all. What they're seeing is still pretty consistent for what it was. It's just the sheer cost of building a home, and that prices have probably reached a sort of maximum peak, which they don't think are going to continue to go up. It's just caused some skepticism on the development side. So that's sort of what I had on that, Angie.
Okay. And I would just say that we're still looking good at this budget cycle as far as the general fund still running at a surplus. So the decline, I don't know if this is the beginning of the building decline in the city, but it's obviously something we're going to keep our eye on every single month. And by the time we start budgeting this year for 2023 and 2024, I think we'll have a better feel for what's going on and just make sure that we're budgeting appropriately going forward based on what the activity seems to be trending in the direction of. So not concerned yet. It's just something that we really have to keep an eye on and keep in our forethoughts for our upcoming budget.
Question.
Yes.
Having only been about my second meeting, is this a situation where you adjust your forecast to your new feelings, or do you leave the forecast where it was and just live with it being down the whole time?
What we do before we do the budget is we do another kind of overhaul of the current budget, every item, and see what's should be rebudgeted, what should be going up or down. So it's all part of the budget amendment process that we do to prepare for the upcoming budget. So in a few months' time, like I said, we should have some better indication on whether this trend is continuing, and then we'll adjust as necessary during that process. So.
So can I ask just a quick question?
Yep.
Angie, well, actually it's two. I noticed that the comparison to the previous year sort of dropped off. Remember, we had 2020 compared to 2019 over on the side, which
sure
was helpful because it established a trend. And when we first said, let's do it, it was because we were in COVID full force. But that's still a helpful look at a longer term trend. And if that's at all possible and not a ton of work, I think it would be helpful to continue that.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. The reason I took it off was because 2020 was a COVID year.
Right.
And then 2021 was more normal for us. So if we compare 2020, it's going to look like 2022 is just booming because it was that off year where our revenues kind of took a hit. I mean, I can put it on there. It just might look like, we're doing way better than we were in 2020, but that was the COVID factor. So,
well, I think it would be informative, particularly as we go through. We know that was a anomaly.
Yeah. But
as we go into the following year, I just think it's helpful to have, sort of a 3-year trend. As we're looking at budgeting going forward. So it's just a comment and a request. And my other question is, the ending balance is now down to about $3.5 million. And it's from 3.8 the month before and over 4 the month before that. Any thoughts about why? Is it property tax collection, do you think, mostly?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just going to say that. So the end of the year, we got our big property tax influx, and we're kind of winding down on that till they're due again this spring. So you'll see that trend until property taxes are due, and then it's going to grow again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You're 100% right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. I will add 2020. I'm just going to throw, so you'll see that in March.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to utilities. I don't have the aging reports to share today because we ran auto pays yesterday. So I'll get those posted probably tomorrow. But Sarah, if you want to scroll, there we go. Perfect. I do have some information on where we're at with shutoffs. So in January 2020, we did 48, 30 have been cured, and we currently have 18 shut off. I think about 15 of those don't have any usage. So it makes sense if people aren't using it that they're not going to work on getting that back on. So we'll keep you posted on where that's at. The March shutoffs will be the same cycle that we did in January. So we'll see where we're at. February was our bigger month. We started with 60. We have 33 that have been cured and 27 still shut off. Again, a number of those are just people not using them anyway. So keep you posted on those. The ARPA assistance with CAP We've had 21 payments made on customer accounts. We've paid about 10,000 to them and have about 40,000 left in that budget. So seen some great things from that program. I know we've been able to help. It's running pretty seamlessly now. It was a work in progress in the beginning, but now we've got that process down really well. So that's good. And if we ever start running short on budget, I mean, council could always request to add more money to that program. So we'll keep an eye on it each month so you guys can see what's going on. The budget amendment. So I put all of this in the packet. Basically, the first 3 pages of the big spreadsheet are just the prior amendments that we've done and where we're currently at. So I'm not going to go through those, but they are in there for your reference. I do want to hit what is in the list for budget amendment 4 because you haven't seen that yet.
Right.
There we go. So these are everything in budget amendment 4 has been council approved. So we're adding grant revenue for a library ARPA grant, as well as offsetting expenses there. And Keitha has already done some purchases. So that one's currently underway. We had the crosswalks where we had that money budgeted in the budget as just all city expense, but we ended up getting that grant. So this budget amendment will clean that up. It'll add the grant revenue and basically brings our city match down to about 48,300. So that's good. In January, council approved the water system plan project. Last I checked with Robert, that was currently out for proposals. So that one's in process as well. We have the IT equipment that was for the firewall and backup system that we needed to shore up our IT system and handle the cybersecurity risks and whatnot. That's already been done. Came in a little tiny bit under budget, but good progress on that. We have the storm damage grant from FEMA that will go into the sewer and storm funds. And that's basically just a reimbursement of expenses that we had from that storm. And then we have had a few public works requests recently. One was the Extend-A-Boom. We also had the upper bearing assembly. And then the last item in there is the request for the increase in the indigent defense contract that we council approved back in February. So none of this should look new to you. It's already been through council, been approved, but obviously this is the process of we gather these up every quarter and get a budget amendment done and make sure they get in our books. Any questions on that?
So the tsunami structure that and the switch over with the TIB, would that be on budget amendment 5 or would we not see it on this one, the one we voted on the last meeting?
That was already, we had money in the budget already for that, so no budget amendment was required. I think that gets us through like the design phase, and where we might have an additional budget amendment is when we get to the construction phase, if we go down that path. So right now, the tsunami is all funded in the budget. It's
right.
just of getting through this first step. And then obviously we're expecting cost overruns, but that'll be a discussion later down the road when we get to that point. So nothing hits the budget quite yet.
Okay, so it's sitting in capital right now, and it wouldn't be moved until actually you begin paying out.
Right.
We're not moving it yet. Is that
no,
what
we're basically just spending what's already in the budget. So there's a commerce grant, there's a FEMA grant, and then there's city match. And that's, you'll notice in those agenda bills when Robert brings them, we're breaking out what expense is hitting it.
Appreciate that.
Basically everything that we're spending and what council has approved so far is already funded in the capital improvement fund.
And that's 301, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
These other pages just kind of show where the funds end up after all the adjustments. So again, just more informational. The funds still look good. Even after the budget amendment, the general fund's still sitting at over 2.3 million, which is well above target. All the funds are in the positive, so that's good news. So it's just, again, a matter of getting the paperwork in order for all the stuff that council's already weighed in on.
So another question, Sarah, could you go back up to the top line there? Right there. So we've got, this shows the beginning balance 3.8, which was in January. Now it's 3.4. So the ending balance is going to be down below, or what we agreed on was 2.5. Not that we can change anything, but we're going to see that lower. Is that correct?
No, the beginning balance in this is the budget. So this is not our actual month to month you see in the financials. This was what was approved in budget amendment 3, last budget amendment. So basically we had a bunch of money in there that we're choosing to spend down, which you can see is why the uses are higher than the sources. So that 3.8 is considering our surplus. As far as the budget only, this is not actual.
So then we're going to want to be mindful, since it brings the ending balance. We had wanted it to stay at like 2.5. We're going to need to be mindful going forward spending that we're below that sort of not arbitrary, but focused desire.
Yeah, and I think you'll see as we work through the new budget, we'll have some wiggle room in there, because right now we still are trending with a surplus, even with the adjustments that we're making. So we'll talk about it during the budget process and see what council's comfort level is with where we want that target. And then we'll make sure we meet it. So it's kind of how the budget.
And just to clarify, I don't know if I heard you right. Did you say that this would come to council April 22nd, or is it coming this, it's not coming this coming meeting, right?
No, the 11th, April 11th.
April 11th, okay.
Yeah. So basically I was waiting to close out March in case there were any things on the agenda for the 28th, because it's a quarterly amendment. So we'll have our first reading on April 11th, and then the second reading will be April 25th.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yep. And then if it gets approved the 25th, you'll see all these adjustments in the April financial statements.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Scott, did you have, I'm going to let you chime in here. Did you have anything else on your report that you want to?
Yeah, just briefly, I was going to let people know this is not a bunch of financial thing, is the High Dunes Trail itself. We met with representatives from Gray and Osborne down at the at the wastewater collection plant, and city engineer Robert Lund and Marshall and I, and looked over their plans to sort of document the High Dunes Trail. It looks great. We looked at the places where we're going to need to bridge some of our wetlands, but it is all moving forward. As I said, of all the projects that Ocean Shores is working on, it's the one I'm the most excited about. I think it's a tremendous, opportunity both for tourists in Ocean Shores, but also for local residents to have it. And we're on track to get this started in June. So we should have a map of the trail kind of by the end of the month, a sort of finalized map, which we'll bring to council and show you that. But I'm excited. I can't wait for this thing to get moving. And that's really the only other item that I had that really sort of pertained to the finance committee at this time.
All right, we are going to dive into LTAC. So as we've worked through LTAC with council and the LTAC committee internally, we kind of came to the conclusion that our current resolution is a little broken. It has hit a few spots. And so, we're going to be dealing with LTAC right around the corner. It's a huge part of the budget, and I have to have LTAC, ready to go for the budget. So that's kind of how it fits into this whole meeting. But basically, we kind of listened to everybody's concerns, and the mayor, Sarah, Diane, and I went through and each put everything together as to what we've been hearing, what we feel is broken on this side of it, what's broken on the other side of it. Brent has also reviewed this, so just throwing that out there. But Sarah, if you want to scroll down, basically we included a copy of the red line resolution. So this resolution is the one we currently have in place right now. And the red lines are obviously the suggested changes. The first one is just adding the fact that resolution 787, which is the current one, will be rescinded if we approve the new one. So that's something we just have to have in there for legalese. Big change on item number 2, the LTAC membership. So this one's kind of been an area of, oh God, I don't know. It's every year it seems like we're always at the last minute trying to get an LTAC committee together and just kind of getting everything together at last minute. There's no real, I don't know, process that's very efficient with this. So we did make some changes here. Basically, the way it's set up right now is that our LTAC members serve 2-year terms. And unfortunately, it's hard when you have that many new members of the committee all at once. It's hard finding members for the committee. So basically the changes here are taking out the term limits. So it would be, instead of saying, you know, we have this many, one serves for 1 year, one serves for 3 years, one serves for 2 years, just taking those out. And if anybody resigns or, you know, there's a need to fill a vacancy, council still has total control over concurring that. It's not taking out any of the council's responsibility whatsoever. It's just a matter of, instead of being required to basically have these people move off of the committee who finally are up to speed after 1 or 2 years, it's taking that out. So that's kind of what's behind this one. Sarah, do you want to talk about any of that?
Just more that it puts us, not that we were out of line with RCW, but it just, if a citizen or a potential member of the board were to go look up the RCW, it correlates in verbiage representation of that RCW. So it just takes any questions people may have, and this is what the city does, which is exactly what the RCW states.
Yes.
Hey, Angie.
Yes.
I have a question. Am I hearing that all term limits would be eliminated?
Yes.
Suggested? Okay.
In this scenario, correct. And that's what has been passed on to us as how this could work better based on the concerns we've been hearing, basically. And my biggest one was we'd have a lot of vacancies at the same time. So I would have a committee that nobody knew anything that was going on with LTAC. And again, it was like, by the time these people got up to speed with how the process worked, they were basically kicked off the committee because their term was up. So that's—
well, I agree with that. I mean, I've been on a million boards, and I totally agree with you. If you're on a 1-year appointment, about 6 months into it, you finally get your wheels under you and you start to do something, and then you've got 2 months left and you stop doing anything and then you're gone. However, I personally wouldn't be comfortable with not having a sunset. I mean, even if it was a 10-year sunset, I've been on other boards where we get clogged down with people that have been on there forever that don't do anything or don't see things the way the rest of the board members do. And then everybody's too embarrassed to pull them off. And, you know, I just don't believe in lifetime appointments. So I would just, for things I've been through, I'd suggest that you put some time of a sunset on a person, even if it was a decade. That's going to be more, trust me, you'll be more appreciative.
Sure. And this is totally up to council, how they want. This resolution is going to be whatever council wants to approve. This is going to be our policy going forward. The only thing that we're required to do per state law is have it set up to where one is a city council member. There's 2 representatives of the lodging businesses, and then the 2 individuals representing the recipient entities. So however we set up term limits, I mean, I do have some thoughts on, you know, there's like, you're on the PFD board now. And if you have a 4-year term limit, you can be reappointed. Our current resolution doesn't allow that. So it's like, regardless if Bob's great at being the chair of LTAC, he's going to get kicked off in 2 years. So it's like, if we can,
yeah, 2 years is not reasonable. Lifetime is also not reasonable. Somewhere in between. Hopefully you guys can, you know, feel comfortable with something in between.
And I would hope the possibility of reappointment would be in there as well, because it's
sure.
I've had Brian Shea on the PFD board for 20 years now, and it's great having that wealth of knowledge that nobody else has.
So maybe it's a matter of consecutive terms. Maybe you pick like a how many years, and then, you know, you can do X amount of consecutive terms and reapply for appointment after whatever.
Yep.
So if I can, as I'm reading this, what I'm seeing is nothing in here that says the length of the term. And I don't have a problem with adding 2 consecutive terms, but it doesn't say in, at least in number 2, I'm not seeing that it says the mayor or designee shall appoint individuals to the LTAC as necessary for a 2-year term. We've taken all of that out. So you've deleted serve no more than 2 consecutive years, but I don't see, other than that beginning, where the terms sit. So
that's what Rich just brought up. That's what we're talking about adding in somewhere.
Well, I think Rich brought up term limits. I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to everything being deleted takes out anything that refers to a 2-year term or a 1-year term or anything else. So my suggestion is that the mayor appoints individuals to the LTAC for a 2-year term that is limited to a total of 5 consecutive terms or something to that effect.
And listening to Angie, I might suggest that term be longer than 2, just having listened to the struggle she's had with people that don't really have their wheels under them right away.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with making it a longer term.
Can I speak up a little bit, because I have experience with that, you know, I think we're making a bigger deal about the term limits as it is, because the LTAC board people are not, you know, Rich, they're not the same type that would sit on you know, other boards. It's a very specific set that you have to have, and those people are few and far between in Ocean Shores. That's one reason it's so hard to find people, because they either have to be from the hospitality side or the nonprofit side. And the majority of those people are not there to sit for a lifetime. You know, there might be 1 or 2. So I'm okay with, you know, consecutive terms, but I don't think we need to make it a bigger deal than it is. And if it, you know, is the same as the RCWs. But again, most people actually would rather not sit on the LTAC as opposed to people who want to sit on there for lifetime. So the term limits to me isn't that big a deal, because there's maybe 15 people max in the whole city of Ocean Shores that are even qualified to sit on the board.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eric. But regardless, we're starting with this, whether council wants to say 4-year terms, I would recommend more than 2, that'd be great, but it's up to council discretion again. The concerns that we have is it seems like people aren't allowed to be on the committee long enough to really we meet typically once a year. So you serve on it for 2 years, you attend two meetings. So it's that people don't get the experience in the short amount of time they're allowed to be on it. We don't have a lot of candidates. And then as well as making sure that there's some kind of reappointment language is something that I would recommend too, because it is nice to have some history when you go into these meetings of what happened 4 years ago, or, back when we had to cut events out because of COVID. And so it's nice to have some longevity on stuff like this, just to give perspective of how things have been done before. So just some things to consider.
Maybe a 4-year term with 3 reappointments possible. That gives somebody 16 potential years.
Sure.
Angie, I just want to let you know I need to step out because I got to get to Aberdeen.
Okay, so, sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Scott. Number 3, that's just cleanup. We took out working day and put business day in there. And Sarah did want to add that somebody can submit under her designee instead of just her in case she's out of the office. And then we are required to give people written notice on the results. So that was just cleanup. Item 4, the issue there was that we have a set process for LTAC every September, October. We used to have a resolution that allowed us to open it up for emergency needs that went away with the current resolution. So instead of having one resolution and then an emergency resolution, we thought it best just to combine it. So we added that section 5, which is basically language directly out of our prior resolution. When emergency needs happen, we can open it up. The LTAC has to convene within 4 weeks and make recommendations to City Council. So we've heard a lot of issues like, why is this only open once a year? What if we had it with when the chamber debacle happened, where we needed to get in there and kind of work on some emergency stuff through LTAC. So it's just making sure we have that caveat in there as stuff arises. Any questions or concerns about that one? Okay. Sarah, if you could scroll down a little bit. Okay. So on item 6, we just added some clarification in there straight from language that we found with MRSC. We always get the question about what's council allowed to do. So we cut and pasted the language out of the MRSC guidance and put it in this resolution just for clarification that council doesn't have to fund the full list of recommended recipients, and you can choose to do some awards or none of the awards, but council cannot make awards to any recipients that were not recommended by LTAC. So it's just giving some clarification on, I swear we get asked that every single year. So it was just, let's put it in here so everybody knows what the rules are. Oh, and this is another one we get asked every year. So 10A, I think we talked to MRSC and our city attorney about nonprofits for-profits every year. So we just wanted to clarify that for-profit organizations can be awarded the funding. That has been blessed by MRSC and our city attorney, but we get questions on Roundup Square is a great example of, can June even apply? And so we ask this question every year, and it's like, let's just put it in our resolution so that it's clear. We're also going to add this to the application because they're required to check a box that says which one of these they fall into when applying for the LTAC funding, so that it's very clear that for-profits can fall under this, the priority list for LTAC. And then attached number 11, we had to update the application. Obviously, Sarah found an amazing example that's all like, you can fill it and auto populate. It's awesome looking. And basically what she did was she just mirrored exactly like the criteria in this resolution. And then we also had to update our tourism promotion agreement to reflect the changes as well. So those will be included in the council packet once we get it to that point. It was a lot of documents to throw in here, so we didn't put them in today, but it's just basically just syncing up all the language throughout all of the required documents. John, do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to make sure that this is a document that the council is comfortable with, and that we just don't go through the argument of LTAC every year. And to Eric's point, the LTAC only meets twice during the entire year. So it's not like a ongoing board with it. So I don't have a lot of energy on term limits or whatever. I just want something that's workable and everybody understands and everyone can agree. And so that we're not struggling to find people every single year, because it is a pain tracking people down that want to be part of it.
All right. I think I'm done talking. Mayor, if you want to take over.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things, and not that there's any action, but these are just some things that from a finance that I just want you guys to be aware. We are going to be presenting the police station. Not only presenting the police station is that will lead to discussions of funding. And Angie will be prepared of just some options that we have. There's not something that I expect action in the near future. It's just more of a process to go through. I just want to have kind of a feeling from the council of what we're going to be doing, and to the citizens also, so no one's surprised by it. We have a large issue when it comes to EMS training that's coming up. If you've been reading in the paper, EMS training funding has gone away from the county. We've been having discussions with other cities and fire districts about what possible solutions are. The county right now doesn't have a process to give money to the EMS training. So it may be our option is either to walk away, and that means there's no EMS training in Grace Harbor and would have to go someplace else, which would be a cost to us, or take on the cost of EMS training divided among the cities. And that could be, it all depends on whether or not the county's involved or not, but it could be up to $20,000 a year. We're still working on that. We don't have a solution. So it's definitely an issue. And then something that we just need to think of as the council, and some of it just how do we do it? There are a lot of projects that are coming up around town that like there's some areas that we have erosion. We have the Oi Hut ditch. And then there's more. There's things that are partially is city responsibilities, but you could also argue parts of the people that are benefited are people that are local or property owners. And we just completed the fire break, so that was all done with city money. But some of the benefit is actually to the hotels back there. And, there could have been an argument made by partnership. And obviously money is a big issue. So the more partnership money that you have, the more products that we can get done. But I am very aware of the whole, because the best model that I have is the partnership of working with the golf course. But as everyone is aware of, the golf course is kind of a hot topic, and the partnership there was not met favorably. So it's just something that we need to think about of what is the process that we can do. When the golf course came forward, it was the first time was the city didn't have any money. And so we kind of worked out a deal, but in looking at that, we've got some other things that are coming. The Oi Hut ditch is going to be the greatest one that we've got right now. Is there are businesses that are willing to do some work back there, but the question is, can the city partner with them, and what does that look like? And there's some erosion issues that we have, and there's areas that would be the city's responsibility, but there are, of course, private people that are on either side that would be part of it. So again, can we partner with it? So just kind of those things that are that we're working on as far as the funding part of it. And I don't have any real answers other than that we're working through. And some of it, like the partnership, is going to be really more of a, we can do it, but it's going to be the perception from the citizens and the council, whether we want to do that or not, or we just want to pay it ourselves. That's all I got.
Okay. Anything else? I think we got Catherine out on time.
Hey guys, thank you.
All right.